Heroes, a look at the history of the military in Presque Isle. I'm Sean Cunningham. Presque Isle played a role in several key conflicts, including World War II. Let's learn why and how geography played an important role in literally putting Presque Isle on the map for military defense and sealed its place in military history. It was the 1940s, the era of big band music, swing dancing, and World War. Because northern Maine was the closest United States land area in proximity to Europe, the Presque Isle Airfield was acquired by the U.S. Defense Department back in 1940 for the future defense of the country. In 1941, the Presque Isle Army Airfield was established as the departure point for planes and equipment going overseas. Then suddenly, the base held a vital role in the nation's defense. More combat planes left from the Presque Isle Army Field for Europe than any other base in the U.S. The mission of the base remained unchanged until the end of World War II in 1945, when the base was deactivated. Then the threat of war again reared its ugly head, this time with Korea. On January 12, 1948, the base was reactivated by the U.S. Air Force, redesignated as the Presque Isle Air Force Base, assigned to the Air Defense Command with the mission of being to defend the airways of the northeastern U.S. The base was also used to conduct basic training exercises for Air Force recruits. Then in 1959, the 702nd Strategic Missile Wing was activated, and the base became the nation's first intercontinental missile base, which was equipped with the SM-62 Snark cruise missile. Following the construction of specialized buildings to house the large missiles and equipment, the Snark officially went on alert in March 1960. The 702nd was not declared fully operational until February 1961. But that March, President John F. Kennedy declared the Snark obsolete and of marginal military value. On June 25, 1961, the 702nd was deactivated and all military activities ceased at the Presque Isle Air Force Base. But it doesn't change the fact that Presque Isle held a significant role in defense history. And now, Craig Green takes us on a tour of several sites throughout the community that have significant military history. Right, so where are we right now? And kind of point, what exactly is that?
So right now we are here at what it would have been alert hangars. So the F-89 jet plane, which is one of the first jet fighters the United States had, was stationed here to protect the airspace. This one is a little graphic, and it says the Tequila Kid, January 27th, 1957. Temperature 53 below zero. L.G. Sosa, Corporal of the Guard. And so on the corner of the building, there's some graffiti like this that's all along the back wall here. From the time of when they were here serving, in the Air Force.
I wouldn't call it graffiti. It's kind of like it's the best version of a time capsule because
it is.
Yeah,
it is, and it's etched right into the metal. Some of them aren't as nice because again they're a group of men that are stationed, without their wives. But again, it is historic,
yeah.
And I think in and of that, it's just kind of something that shows some of the aspects of life that we wouldn't know otherwise.
No, but it's also a connection because you might find something like that here today. Young people writing something to kind of let us know that they are here. Right. There's that connection there. Absolutely. How amazing that that's still been preserved all this time.
Well, yeah, you think about it now, going back, 60 something years, and it's just, I think it's really amazing. And I think that's kind of the story of Presque Isle is that, we have very modern, brand new buildings here on the airport, and we have some of these original World War II, and then Cold War, which was Cold War, that were here, and served, and they continue to serve today in a aviation role for private aviation.
So where are we now?
Okay, so right now we are on an actual concrete 13-foot thick launch pad for the Snark intercontinental ballistic missile. And so this, about from 1958 to 1961, was the first installation that was operational in the United States. And so these were a truck launch on an apparatus missile with a capability of flying just over 6,000 miles. So that would carry it from here to just past where Moscow is, and that's why they were interested in that site being here. In northern part of the United States.
So this is the actual site. So back in the day where we're standing, there would have been what?
So this would have looked exactly as it does today, pretty much, except for a little newer concrete look to it. And then in all these buildings behind me, you would have the actual Snark missiles on truck-based launchers. And then they would drive them out, stand them up, and then they would take off from here. None were ever, of course, launched from here. They were tested over the Gulf of Mexico and over the Atlantic Ocean off of Florida.
Right.
And that being because, they could just launch them out into the ocean. They weren't particularly, with their guidance systems that were very new and were learning about that type of thing at the time, they weren't super reliable. So that's why they're very short operational life of 3 years.
How big were they, for those that may not?
So they a little over 60 feet long, about 40 some feet wide on the wings. So they're quite a large missile, honestly. But they had rockets on them, of course. They were not, like I say, used more than 3 years, but their guidance system ended up going on to be part of some of the rockets that were used in the moon missions. So they did have an ability to again, increase technology over their time. And really, not until President Reagan, stood over at the Berlin Wall and said, President Gorbachev, tear down this wall, that all of a sudden those tensions and some of the détente of coming together with Russia to have de-armament and less nuclear weapons occurred during, again, my lifetime. And I think at those moments growing up, I think we were concerned because of Loring being nearby. And that's the only thing I can really internalize myself of what people that lived in Presque Isle 10 years before I was born and 30 years before I was born, when the war was going on, that they must have felt because the planes were flying over their homes and waves of bombers would come and then take off and head for Europe.
Then we ventured to some of the hangars or bunkers that housed the missiles.
So all of these hangars are part of that original alert hangar complex. It's at the end of the runway, and they're designed so the jets could just simply roll out, go down there and get right on the end of the runway and take off, because again, they were in a mission to protect the airspace. And today, like Flying Club is here. So, if someone has interest in aviation, you can join the local Flying Club. And we encourage kids all the time to come up and be part of their events every summer, to fly in a plane with them. And they have their meetings regularly. And so there's that. There's also people that store their private planes here. And then there's also a local spray plane business that's here.
Some people may not even realize. I didn't even know we had a flying club. What exactly is that? And
So it's a group of local pilots. And so they work with each other on training, interests of just aviation, and then they also have a plane here that can be rented. There's lessons available, so I think that's another aspect of Presque Isle that not talked about very often. But every summer, usually in the early part of the year, in the May to June timeframe, they have a big event, and they advertise it all over town. You'll see the banners, and if you're a youth, they're usually less than age 18. You can come up and fly in the plane with them, and they put that on for the public. So I'd encourage people, if they want to know more about it, contact us.
That's probably where the next generation of aviators is coming from, right?
Very well could be.
Okay, Craig, so where are we now?
So we're on the road that goes from the missile bunkers down at Hanson Brook Lake back towards the airport itself. And so behind me are actually the alert hangars for the F-89. And then off to the side beyond that is what you see is the Snark missile hangars. And I guess what I really want to make note of is the fact that this area, and when we look over here, is a potato field, and they farmed literally within a few hundred feet of where the nuclear missiles were stored and launched should need be. So this is really a good example of how integrated into the community things were at that time, and without the realization that they were here, because again, the public that owned this land and farmed here were able to come this close, but most of the public weren't, because again, this was on the base at that time.
What about to the left of you?
Yes, and to the left of me is actually the airport runway, and runway 19, which is our north and south runway, is actually longer than the runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York City.
From there, we venture to the landing at Hansen Lake.
We're now at what most people would know is the landing at Hansen Lake, and this was the nuclear weapons storage area when the Snark missile was active here in Presque Isle from 58 to 61. So right behind me is the boat landing, but if I go back in time to 1958, you would have seen a bunker. And if anyone's been to the weapons storage area over at Loring, that's now open to the public as part of the Wildlife Refuge Heritage Area, you would see a very, very similar type of bunker. And there were actually three here. There was one about where in the lake, one right behind us, and one just over to my right. So that was what was here during that period of time.
So what happened? How did it, where the site is, how did it come to be where it is and how it is right now?
Well, they used this area because, again, it's downhill from the airport. It would be more out of sight. As you can see, it's kind of surrounded by trees. At the time, there was no lake here. This was just a brook. So it was just kind of one of those out of sight, out of mind spots that's on the backside of the airport.
Our thanks to Craig Green for giving us a tour and all his insightful knowledge and history about this community. On our next installment, we talk to some local heroes about what it's like to be a veteran here in Northern Maine. For Honoring Our Heroes, I'm Sean Cunningham. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.